As the cattle industry convention continues here in New Orleans, producers were very surprised to see a big drop in the number of cattle here in the United States with the latest cattle inventory report. That's what we're talking about here today. But first, a big thank you to our friends at Neogen for bringing you coverage this week from New Orleans. Learn more about their DNA testing for beef on their new product, Identity Beef. Visit neogen.com for more. Well, as I mentioned, that cattle inventory report came out and the U.S. cattle herd shrunk by 3%. So what does that mean today, tomorrow, and the months and years ahead? That's what our guest today, ShayLe Stewart, DTN Livestock Market Analyst and Cattle Market News host on Facebook and YouTube, joins us here today. And ShayLe, we weren't really expecting a 3% drop. What were those pre-report estimates?
You know, Lane, we really did expect a decrease. It didn't matter if you were a day trader or a cattle producer, you understood that we were going to see a decrease in the cattle inventory report. But as you said, we did not expect as significant as a decline in which we saw today. And so I think that the one number that we can all, regardless of where we're at in the industry and what our relative segment is we can focus on the beef cow herd. And what that was really pegged against and what we were comparing it against was the 2014 number. And so in 2014, that was previously the all-time lowest number of beef cows that the industry had at 29 million head. Today, the report came out at 28.9 million head. So that was down 4% compared to a year ago. And so that was significantly smaller than what we had expected to come out today.
Now, as we look at that, we also have to consider our replacement females as well. We're seeing so many of those high-quality females leave the countryside due to drought, due to profitability. What as a market analyst, what are some of the key things that you're watching, especially in this number, but moving ahead, just how that's going to impact the marketplace and just numbers in the countryside?
Well, you already stole my talking points because there are two main things in which are needed in order for the U.S. beef herd to grow, to expand, and that is profitability and green grass, neither of which we've seen in the market or in the industry, countryside, whatever you want to call it, yet. Now, we do expect that as the weather pattern changes here in the late spring, early summer, we could see that La Nina pattern shift and we could get more moisture in the upcoming months. But until then, until we get more moisture and until we see more profitability in the industry, we do not believe that the liquidation is going to cease. Now, it should lessen, it should decrease. We shouldn't see beef cow slaughter as aggressive as it was in 2022, but for the most part, until we see more profitability in the industry, this is a trend that shall continue into 2023.
Now, Evan Slack with the Evan Slack Network, the founder of the Western Ag Network, he was so well known for always saying higher, higher at the end of his, when he was talking about the markets. And obviously the markets have not opened yet post-report. They will here very soon. But obviously these markets are going to be higher today. How is that going to impact live, feeder, and also those cash prices as we move into February now?
You know, the market, when it transitions from the end of the fiscal year, you know, the year before and into January, you would kind of have a stale time in the marketplace. Nobody is really quite up to beat in the markets. We're really just transitioning from the holidays into the new year. And so we don't expect the market to really jump into the new fiscal year until after this report. And given that it was as robust and it was as bullish as it was, we really expect that, you know what, new price points, price discovery, and maybe even some contracts highs could be tested. Now, like you said, obviously we'll have to wait and see when those contracts open, but we do believe that this could be the boost, the momentum that the market needed in order for prices to begin to really start on that bullish run.
Again, ShayLe Stewart, DTN Livestock Analyst, joins us. ShayLe, of course, we have big cattle producing states that have been seeing that decrease. What does that look like with our top 10 producing states in terms of how much that percentage did they lose and what states maybe stayed steady?
Yes, good question. And so I'll just list them out, that way everybody is extremely clear. Of the top 10 beef producing states with the most number of beef cows in the United States, that's Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Nebraska, South Dakota, Kansas, Montana, Kentucky, North Dakota, and Florida. The only state that was steady with a year ago in the sheer number of beef cows in its state was Missouri. All the other states on that list fell anywhere from either 1 to 7%. And so that's significant when we talk about those being the largest states with the most beef cows. So that really helps shine a light on exactly how what the heart and what the beat of the U.S. cow herd is doing. And so
as we look at those cash markets, last week we were actually pretty surprised to see that market go up just a little
Yes.
bit even before this report came out. So what can the feeders expect profitability-wise? We always, coming both from that cow-calf background, we know the struggles that cow-calf producers face, but
Yes.
feeders, you got to be pretty tough mentally and physically to play that feeder game.
Yes.
What is that going to look like in feedlot country?
You know, unfortunately, higher prices don't guarantee profitability, as you well know. And so as we work and as we transition our way into the new year, into 2023, we're going to have to be very careful as producers, regardless of what segment of the industry, cow, calf, feeder, that we are conscientious about our inputs, because that's the biggest concern moving forward. And so feeders have to be especially cautious because, you know, these feeder cattle prices are continuing to get higher, but our inputs such as feed, labor, corn, they're all significant as well. So as we move through the year, that'll be the biggest factor. There is upside potential, especially if that fat cattle market starts to move, but we're going to need to see those two factors work hand in hand.
Now we're a few months out before we will see kind of what the video sales will be setting that that calf market here in just a few months. But still, what are some tips that you have? You're just an analyst. I know you don't have that the magic crystal ball or the magic 8-ball to shake, and it tells you exactly what happens. But what are some tips or just that producers should follow as we look? Because just to be cautious about maybe holding out too long or jumping the gun too fast and getting a contract, because we don't know what these calf markets truly will achieve this year.
Right. So I think that's a really good question, because everybody wants to know what's the market's sweet spot. You know, it made a high here last year, there the year before, but what's it going to do this year? And so what I'd really encourage producers to do is to know the market where we sit in regards to inventory and to know how that plays out in the marketplace. And so one thing I think everybody should go and do is, even though the futures market is just an anticipation of what prices could be, it's never a guarantee. I would really encourage producers to go look at the May contract of 2023 compared to that of August. And you're going to see last week it was a $19 price spread. And so I would caution individuals, I would caution them to be leery of marketing too early in the year, just simply because as we work our way into the second half of 2023, supplies should become even tighter, even thinner, and that should drive prices higher.
Let's cross our fingers a black swan event doesn't throw all this off.
Absolutely. I don't even like saying that word right now.
Throw us a bone here in the cow-calf sector, right?
Right.
Well, ShayLe, any last thoughts that you would just like to share with our listeners and our audience here today?
You know, I think the one thing that maybe we didn't hit on earlier when we were talking about the beef cow numbers in this report is that it's important to know that this means, with the beef cow herd sitting at 28.9 million head, that is the fewest beef cows that the United States has ever possessed on record. And this report goes back to 1972. And so that really needs to be something that we chew on and that we think about how it's going to affect the markets in the years to come, because we know that there are highs in the market and we know that there are lows, and there always will be. We work in a cyclical cycle, but moving forward we need to be cautious about what the build back looks like after this.
Well, I think the cops are after Russell Nimitz there. He was jaywalking going to the hotel here from the convention center. But ShayLe, thank you so much for your insight. And of course, ShayLe Stewart with DTN, a livestock market analyst. And also check her out on social media with Cattle Market News. She shares so much important information on those platforms every single week. Well, friends, we have more to come here this week from New Orleans at the Cattle Industry Convention. We'll have more here on our Facebook, YouTube, social media, and radio and TV programs throughout the week.